Para América Latina. Entonces, bienvenida Rina, nos va a acompañar en este panel. Luego sigue, voy a tratar de pronunciar estos nombres que nunca hemos tenido que conocer en nuestras vidas. Boaz Sayonce. Boaz es emprendedor, experto en mercadeo digital y consultor. Es fundador y jefe de mercadeo de una empresa en etapa temprana en fintech, que es tecnología en el entorno financiero para, como dicen ellos, ser disruptivos en el mundo de la banca. Y también tiene experiencia como parte de una empresa que creció de 10 millones a 60 millones de usuarios y que se consolidó con un patrimonio de más de 1 billón con B de Bogotá de dólares, y él hizo parte de esa compañía como experto en mercadeo. Bienvenido, Boaz. Welcome. Tenemos luego a Or Ilan. Or es filósofo. Or se tuvo que ir por su vuelo, entonces Or ya no va a estar, pero vamos a tener otro filósofo, no se preocupen. Está Eli Neusner, Eli, que nos va a acompañar. Eli es administrador senior de inversiones con experiencia en desarrollo de negocios. Él es muy experto en conectar emprendedores con inversionistas y también habla español porque está casado con una uruguaya. Directa o indirectamente, Eli ha conseguido más de 2 billones de dólares combinado entre organizaciones e inversionistas con alto poder de inversión, y ha dirigido firmas de inversión liderando portafolios de grupo, acompañando la salida a bolsa de varias empresas en el mundo. Hay un tema muy importante sobre eso que decía nuestro primer conferencista, y es la importancia de la salida, del éxito. Y nuestras compañías en Colombia no tienden a salir de sus propietarios. Entonces, pues él es un experto en ese tema como inversionista. Bienvenido, Eli. Nos va a acompañar Chagai. Él todavía nos va a acompañar. Chagai, antes de que se vaya. Chagai, you're gonna make it. Chagai es un hombre de negocios y está entre inversionistas y emprendedores. Ha estado involucrado como inversionista en muchas industrias, energías renovables, finca raíz, agricultura, en agricultura especialmente en el tema de café, y en Colombia ya tiene puestas unas inversiones. Tiene experiencia también en conectar emprendedores con inversionistas, y yo les cuento pues que en mi conocimiento y mi acercamiento al ecosistema emprendedor e innovador había tenido mucho contacto con emprendedores seriales, pero no tanto con inversionistas seriales. Entonces, Chagai es un inversionista serial. I'm just saying what you know I was going to say about you. y entonces, pues nos acompaña hoy. Bienvenido, Chagai. Un aplauso. Bueno, un panel con tantas personas y además israelíes, yo me voy a correr para aquí para poderles ver la cara. Va a tener una dinámica distinta de los paneles normales. Entonces lo que yo voy a hacer es que les voy, it's going to be in English and I'm going to explain the dynamic for them, okay? Entonces les voy a hacer una serie de preguntas, unas ráfagas de preguntas a las que todos van a responder, y luego les voy a ir haciendo intercaladas unas preguntas de la especialidad de cada uno. @ Sol Camacho, estoy pendiente de sus preguntas. Entonces, la primera pregunta que tengo para ellos: if I ask you one word that defines Israel, what would you say?
I think everyone can say one word at the same time. Chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
I don't know how they're going to translate this. I think maybe we should explain what is chutzpah.
Atrevidos.
Atrevidos. Chutzpah is not like it is a word, but it's more of a mentality. It's, to translate to English, is to be rudeness, but in a positive way. This is what I would explain about Israelis, and after I'll elaborate.
Hay un eco por aquí, un micro, una traducción, un aparato de traducción en español que se oye súper duro. Si alguien nos ayuda a identificar de dónde viene. Hay un dispositivo de traducción. Chutzpah es como insolente, audaz, atrevido, y es para mí sobre todo la actitud de no darse por vencido. Un israelí puede estar al borde de cualquier precipicio y está convencido de que no se va a caer. Y uno pues no entiende, pero esa es la mentalidad israelí. Second question. We have talked a lot about innovation and entrepreneurship, and I would like you to tell us why do you think Israel is such a thriving country in innovation and entrepreneurship? And I'm gonna give the word to each of you for that. Ah, ya. Vale, no, es que ustedes no se dan cuenta, pero tenemos aquí un eco de la traducción bastante fuerte. Sobreviviremos. So the question is, why do you think Israel is such a thriving country in innovation and entrepreneurship? Who wants to, you want to start?
So I think there's two things. Number one, well, first of all, let me ask the group again because I was very impressed with the answer before. How many people in the audience either work for a startup or have started their own company? That's amazing. All right, now, how many people have worked for a startup that failed? Okay, I want to invest with you guys. That's the Israeli mentality right there. Israel accepts failure. They accept making mistakes. They accept the fact that you learn from your mistakes and that you learn from your failures. I work for a venture capital fund that has invested in over 100 companies, both in Israel and around the world. And we prefer to invest with entrepreneurs who are experienced and who have failed, because they've learned from their mistakes, they've learned things that they can correct, they learn how to evolve and change and adapt. One quick anecdote. There's a company called Ciota that some of you may have heard of. They were started by an Israeli entrepreneur who spent at least 3 years developing what he thought was going to be a great idea. A credit card that basically stopped working after one use. He tested it with consumers. People said, this is a great idea. It's almost like a Snapchat for credit cards. And he spent a couple years developing it, spending millions and millions of dollars, and then he went live into the market with it, and it failed completely. It went completely out of business. So 3 years of his life wasted, but not really, because he learned something about the fact that people really want secure ways to transact and make financial transactions. So he developed a new technology called risk-based authentication, which is now the standard for the way that people transact from their home and from other places. Essentially, it's a way to make financial transactions in a secure way. It understands, for example, the difference between you paying your bills from your home computer versus someone in Russia transferring millions of dollars. They understand that the Russian guy requires a lot more security in order to really verify the transaction. So he learned from his mistakes, he adapted, he found something else that ultimately worked, and he sold it to RSA for about $145 million. That is, I think, the Israeli mentality right there. That's why it's become such a successful environment for startups.
Okay, I want to give another one. I'm sure I agree, but there is another very important issue, is our army. We have an army of the people, of all together. My son has to be there. I was there. I'm sure that every Israeli here has been there. And it's very important for the entrepreneurship afterwards. And I want to give you a very small example. There's a guy, 18 years old, and he has to pass his first part of the army, the first 3 months, and he has to run for 40 kilometers in 3 months. Be ready, like a marathon, you know, old marathon. So this is a very slight, thinny guy, not a very strong, and he is not sure that he will be able to run 40 kilometers in 3 months. But what happens is, and this is a real story, I'm not just telling something that didn't happen. This guy, his father did it, but he said, I'm sure it's not true what he told me, but when he has to go and run these 40 kilometers, and then he ended after running these 40 kilometers, and with a group of people helping him, because he was not alone, he was with his friends, his soldiers, friends running with him, and he finished, his satisfaction was so big, he felt so proud of himself that he could do it. And this, I can do it, this proud, this self-security is something that the military, the army give us as an Israeli people, that we can do it. And this is a very small example with physical entrenamiento.
Training.
Thank you. But also we have on the military very clever people working for the army and developing the best technologies that we know now. So also these guys, these young guys from 18 to 21, when they get out of the army, they are very, very secure of themselves. They know that they can manage and can develop things that anybody thought it could be possible. So this self-confidence is something that the army gave us. So this is another point.
For me, I think if I look at my startup, I would say definitely, like Eli said about failure, to know how to overcome failure, but also how to be flexible. Because you always start with an idea, and you think it's going to work, and you try it, and it fails. And the question is, what are you going to do next? Go to a completely different idea, or just change something small, like a small pivot in your idea. And then suddenly it works. And then you go, okay, so if I can do this, maybe I can do something else. And if you're flexible with your startup, every time changing just a little bit, adapting to whatever it is, and basically not saying, okay, I quit, it's not working. It's a little bit of flexibility and definitely a lot of determination. I think this is a good way how you can actually keep on going.
I think the reason Israel is very successful because in startups, because it's a necessity. It's for existence. We don't have the privilege, like Colombia, not to be successful. We are surrounded by 7 very big enemies. We have no friend neighbors. Our best friend is the sea next to us, which our neighbors asked us to move there actually. We have 0 natural resources. We have 2 lakes. One is dead, one is dying. The only way we could get water is sea. Nothing grows there. And the only way Israel could exist is it's a mandatory. We have to, think, innovate how to grow food, otherwise we won't have to eat. We have to be good in militaries, otherwise we will die. And this is why people ask me what's the difference between Colombia and Israel. I think it's basically, it's the necessity. Colombia is a beautiful country. You have all the natural resources any country could wish for. People are a very happy country. It's easy. You had a very tough past, but these days, things are going well. That's why it's the mentality, working-wise, Colombia would never be like Israel. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. You don't need to be like Israel because you have everything there.
That's quite interesting because I asked you about the conditions or the reasons why Israel is so successful in innovation and entrepreneurship, and you all mentioned things around mindset and culture. So it's not about where the country is located. It's not about something special in the water or in the people. It's just actually about, it's here. And I would like to dive deeper on that with Chagai. You have been getting in touch with Colombia a lot lately, both with entrepreneurs and investors. And you keep going global to other countries as an investor. I would like you to tell us, how do you see the mentality of doing business in Colombia? And how do you think that's different from Israel?
So like worlds apart. How I describe the difference is Colombia sees the natural resources and surrounds itself to it. If it rains over here, I'm going to grow a crop over here. If there's whatever, they do according to what the nature provides. Israel changed the environment to wherever they need. I need water here, I'm going to make sure they're going to grow water here. I want a plant over here, I'm going to make sure to change the environment to have a tree growing over here. That's the basic big difference between the two countries. In practicality, and to be more practical, Israelis are more fast to close business, are fast to do things. The first actually word I learned in Colombia, a phrase, no mañana, ahora. It was so frustrating. I've been here for 3 years investing in agriculture because I think Israel Technologies together with Colombia's natural resources, it's a very good friendship, it's a good partnership. And the first a year and a half was extremely frustrating regarding sentimentality, what is mañana means, what is I'm coming in 10 minutes means, what is a contract means. Yes. After 2 days, I feel like I think I got something wrong. But on the other hand, I like doing this in Colombia because Colombians they're good people. Our guys are good people, happy people. It's a good atmosphere. You go to Israel, it's exciting, it's rushed, but you go to Israel, your shoulders are like a block. It's so much action, and people it's a small country, so all of us have to not step over each other, but to fight in order to succeed, because it's a small country, we can't really develop outside of Israel because of our neighbors. So we really have to struggle to be who's the best, which is good in making us good entrepreneurs, good business people, but it has a toll. Colombia, everything it's much more relaxing and fun to do business. So I definitely, I'm here to stay for a much longer time.
That's great. It's interesting because when you say Israelis are going to be fast at giving response and direct at the response they're giving, sometimes we in Colombia want things to be perfect before we expose them in public. So if an investor is telling us that he wants to see a deck for investment, we'll say, yes, I will send it to you. But then we're going to go and work on it, and we'll 6 months and research and lots of things so it looks perfect. And then the investor has lost his interest in the project. So before you leave, because this is going to be the final question, I want you to give some advice to the entrepreneurs that are here for their own businesses.
One advice. First up, be serious, be diligent. I think the most important is to follow up, because, and this I really don't understand the mentality, not just entrepreneurs, even workers. I hired someone to give me a price quote. They drive 4 hours to sit with me for an hour and explain, and then they just disappear. They don't give a price quote, nothing happens. And I don't understand why they invested so much time if they weren't planning to give a price quote. To become an entrepreneur is not to become a worker. I see the mentality over here because many entrepreneurs, they work, they wanna, they're looking to raise money, want to offer even to invest in, but then there was like a holiday, it's like, oh, we're taking 2 weeks off. I'm like, but we're starting the business in 2 weeks, we need to prepare. Oh no, but it's holidays and vacations. I'm like, yeah, but you're not a worker, you are you're owner of the company. I mean, I'm just investors. Entrepreneurs are the ones who are leading the company. So I think that mentality needs a bit to shape up and to be more focused, and I think Colombia does have the potential, has big potential.
Well, thank you for being with us. I'm gonna let you go because you need to get to the airport.
Yes.
And I'm sure all these entrepreneurs will want to follow up with you.
I can give my contact information.
So, as an observer, one of the other, I'm gonna keep moving until I'm all alone here with you. As an observer, one of the things that I've noticed is key in Israel is the immigration component. So it is a country made up of people from so many countries. It is such a young country. It's not even 70, which is even lower than the life expectation these days. And yet it has managed to embed people from all over the world. It finally gave a place to come back to so many people that were gathering out there. So I would like to ask you, what role does immigration play in the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in Israel?
I think it's very, very, very important. As you said, there are the people of Israel come from most countries in the world, from very different regions, Europe, Africa, in North America, South America as well. It's no coincidence that the real launch of Startup Nation, so roughly in the late 80s, early 90s, mid-90s, coincided with the arrival of over 1 million immigrants from the Russian Republic. So these are people that escaped from communism, escaped from the bureaucracy, the rules, and arrived in this new country and realized for the first time they could do whatever they wanted. They could try things, they could really move ahead, and the Russian culture is actually pretty, first of all, they value education, they value hard work, and they value sort of energy, and I think all those things really helped the Israeli entrepreneurial community take off. Yes, there's capital and the government supported and everything, but it was the individuals, not just Russians, but from all over, who really, I think, drove and contributed to the growth of the Startup Nation.
Well, connected a bit to immigration, but part of immigration is having different thoughts, I think. People with different backgrounds, having different education backgrounds, and when they all meet together and everybody comes from a different place, you actually challenge each other all the time with the ideas you have. I myself am half Dutch, I come from Holland, and even that I'm only half Dutch, when I speak to my partners, they really think I came from the moon or something, because they don't understand why do I say these things and why do I have this approach. But actually, it actually makes things fresh again, because suddenly something good comes out of it. So in that respect, I think the more multicultural, multinational, should we say, ecosystem you have, I think a better chance of success. That's how I see it.
Okay, I have two answers. The first one is related to really what happened with these 1 million people of Russia who came to Israel in the 90s. The people that there was enough employment for them. We have professors that were cleaning houses. It was really very, very hard. So in this place, the government took a very important part. They create what is now known as the technological incubators. They create a place where these technical people and very experienced people could develop their ideas. And they give them money and they support them. And this is the start. This is one of the best things that the government did in order to support the entrepreneurs. They made these Russian people where they couldn't find jobs, so they have to be entrepreneurs. And the government helped them and gave money for good entrepreneurs, not to everybody, but for the good ones. And nowadays, these technological incubators are one of the best things that Israel has to offer. And the other one is also my experience. I was born in Uruguay and lived in Latin America, in Chile, in Argentina, in Mexico. And all my professional studies and experience is from Israel. And I'm not the only one. What I want to do now is to transmit my experience, the ecosystem, back to Latin America, where I was born. And a lot of people I know from the States, from Europe, for a lot of countries that have come, and they have their professional experience made in Israel, they come back and give part of what they have received in Israel to their original countries. This is part.
It's quite interesting because Colombia historically has been a very closed nation. We have not been very open to immigration, and in that sense we're quite endogamic. And I think one of the places in Colombia that is more diverse in that multicultural sense is Barranquilla again. And you can see how different the entrepreneurial network is over there, based specifically on that. So, Rina, I would like you to tell us, based on your extensive work on culture of entrepreneurship, what patterns or common characteristics have you encountered in the places that are more prone or open to innovation and entrepreneurship?
Thank you for the question. I have three attitudes that the theory says, but it really happens with where there are more countries where they have entrepreneurs. And we have talked about two of them here already. One is not to fear to failure. This is an attitude. The other one is the self-confidence that an entrepreneur has to have. And the third one is risk-taking. In order to be an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you can tell us a little bit about risk-taking, it's very, very important that we, as an entrepreneur, we have this as an attitude. And I think this, my phone is ringing. I think that in Latin America in general, I don't know so much about Colombia, but I know in Mexico, for example, these three attitudes are not saying so developed. They are not so used. And for example, I just want to take you, a lot of people here say that they have their startup or entrepreneurship and they have failure, right? I just want to have another question. Didn't your father, your uncle, or somebody told you, I told you, you will fail? That's right? Okay, that's part of the culture because they don't help us with our failures. And in Israel, when I had my startup and I came to an investor like Yola that we saw before, they have, I remember the first two questions they asked me. The first one, they want to know the team. Who is the team? And after they understand that you could be a good team, the second question was, did you have a company before? And I said, no, this is my first company. So they told me, failure with your company and come back. And really, that's the way they think. If you don't have failure with your first startup, you don't understand what you are doing. So it's a cultural thing that we take from the failure and we get more resilience. We get more, we have more, we know how to come up out of our failure and we become more powerful.
You know that it's completely opposite in general terms in Colombia because when we fail, we tend to hide our failures. It's not something that we show. I'm Marisol Camacho and I failed. That's not what we usually do. But I think it's because in Colombia we tend to underestimate the power of failure as a learning tool, as a learning experience. And that's something that in entrepreneurship is really, really valuable. And what you've said is not different than what an investor in the US would say. First question, how many companies have you founded and how many times have you failed? None? Get back in line. Come back when you have more scars. So I would like to ask a question next to Eli. In the firm that you're working at, you're leading the expansion of this venture capital firm to Latin America. And you've been looking at lots of projects throughout the region. I would like you to tell us, what have you seen in the region in terms of projects to invest in terms of companies to invest in, and what do you think is the most challenging aspect that we have to deal with?
Okay. So I've traveled and done business and invested in America Latina for many years. This is my first trip to Colombia, so I can't speak too much to the specific culture here, but I'm looking forward to learning a lot more, and that's why one of the reasons that I'm here is to explore and to learn about the local entrepreneurial community. I can tell you that I was in Brazil about a month ago in São Paulo, and I think there you have, to my surprise a little bit, the birth of a very impressive startup culture. And it's starting in the universities. One thing that Brazil definitely has is a community of people who have lived and worked abroad, who have come back to Brazil, especially to São Paulo, and who have are starting companies. They also have some real technological savvy. There's money, there's capital in Brazil, and a lot of the Brazilian capital stays in Brazil, which is frustrating when you're trying to raise money from Brazil, but the Brazilian money predominantly stays in Brazil. There's some interesting things happening in where my wife is from, in Montevideo, in Uruguay. There's a big community of software developers that are creating games and doing all kinds of interesting work there. And they've attracted a lot of capital from abroad, also Buenos Aires. And then finally, I think also Mexico is a very important startup community for many of the same reasons Brazil is, but it's because they've had people who have gone abroad and have come back, and the country is doing well, and there's pretty good sources of capital, and they're open. It's a very open community, an open culture. They look to market abroad and take capital from abroad, and so it's relatively close to the United States. So it's actually a really ideal place for us to continue to look to do business. Colombia is not that far from the United States either. My flight from Atlanta was 4 hours, so we'll be back.
I'm going to ask the audience that we have here, how many of you do you think your bank has some room for innovation? Do you think your bank has room for innovation? Raise your hand if you do. So you think your banks are pretty innovative? Can they innovate much more? Okay. And I would like to ask Boaz, which is the entrepreneur that we have left right now here, a question. He's in the fintech atmosphere, and fintech is into, can I say this, to kick banks' butts? So it's like actually to show them that they can do things much better, and that they have sat in the way they do business in status quo for a very long time. And so I would like to ask you, Boaz, how did you first envision an opportunity in the fintech scene, and what is the potential that you see in this industry worldwide?
Well, fintech is actually very close to almost every other industry, meaning let's say you have something that you do all the time, you use it all the time and you got used to it, but it annoys you, simply annoys you. And it could be in any product that you have. And you go like, why is it like this? Can I just do it better? So fintech has just became a hot topic in the last couple of years because people really just had enough with the fact that the banks are not keeping up with what's happening out there technologically.